Chloe Frankham with Silicon Slopes. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events, and we're excited today to have Alysha Smith from modern8 here.
Hi.
She is CEO, owner, managing director, a little bit of everything, so she's superwoman. And we're going to talk to her today about modern8, her background, her experience, get a little feel for branding and design, and see how that can help startups in the community. So welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here in Lehigh.
Awesome. Yeah, especially in this difficult atmosphere. We wanted to kind of bring some light.
We have a nicely social distance,
Yes.
distance between us.
Yep, exactly, for sure.
Close, but not too close.
Yep. So if you want to just start out telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got involved in modern8, all that fun stuff.
Okay. Well, it's literally a story that began, I guess you could say, at birth. I was a daughter of a graphic designer. So since inception, I've been influenced heavily by branding, design, aesthetics, things like that. And you could say that kind of influenced my path. However, at the age 16, I had other things on my mind, like clothes, and it was right around the time, this dates myself, but that Gap was really at the height of style and fashion. And so I applied many a times to work there, finally landed my dream job at 16, and I felt pretty awesome, let's say. And worked my way up with Gap Inc. through high school and through college, and even my last year at BYU, I was promoted to store manager while I finished up my degree in communications and business. And so that eventually took me to New York, where before that I had married a graphic designer who needed to finish his degree. So we moved to the city, and he went to school, and I went on to manage different Banana Republics of all sizes, and had a lot of success there. I was recognized company-wide for leadership excellence and people development and visual merchandising. And although I have the dearest place in my heart for New York, it is not the easiest place to raise a family and have a career, etc. So we did come back to Salt Lake City, and I worked at Anthropologie as a store manager for 3 years, and it was there that I kind of further developed a love for aesthetics and art. I don't know if many of you know that Anthropologie is kind of known for their highly visually dominated environment, so it was a lot of fun to work there and to just further my love of art. And unfortunately, I had some personal kind of tragedies happen within my life. So it really forced me to reevaluate how I was spending my days and nights and holidays and weekends. So I resigned and went to work for modern8, which is also my father's business. And you know, I've spent my entire career up to that point, like really just being off of a computer, you know, being on the sales floor, managing people, working with teams. And so I had to take some accounting classes and some crash courses in the Adobe suite to really learn some of the tactical parts of being in a design agency. But
definitely.
I was able to use my interpersonal skills that I had learned and management to work on projects with the designers and the clients, and just really fell in love with the process even more than I had ever been. And I kind of came back to where I thought I'd started in the first place, and got to learn from the creative director. And about 3.5 years ago, I bought modern8 and have since then been working to expand our team, our offerings, and our expertise in branding and design. So that's where we are now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And can you tell me a little bit more about modern8 and your guys' views on branding and how you help companies kind of brand themselves and the strategic process that you go through with companies that you work with? Yeah,
so we believe that brands is an emotional response to design that is formed by brand pillars that make up who that brand is. So their brand personality, their voice, their positioning, etc. And really that point of entry, though, for a brand to resonate with a customer or a potential client is visual. And it's why we spend hours a day on Instagram trying to get those like visual dopamine hits, and why we get captivated by those Instagram ads, because they're all so nicely designed and they are targeted specifically to you and for you. And it's the same reason we pay more money for an Apple computer, or I brought some of our own Ritual chocolate, $12 chocolate, because they just look so nice, right? They taste good too.
You go after things that look pretty to you. Yeah,
they do. And it used to be that if you were a company, you could create a product or service and probably have some success based on word of mouth or just based on how great your product was. But now we really truly live in a design and brand centric world. And so we need to talk and create our brand specifically to resonate within this new world. Design is truly where the rubber meets the road. It's where the customer creates, or that customer and brand has that, like, I've got to have it at any cost or mentality. But design is the point of entry, but it's not the sticking point. Creating that long-lasting brand is really what's going to create that loyalty and is going to create that resonance that lasts long-term. And that branding needs to be built, as I mentioned before, on a strategic foundation. So that brand really needs to understand who they are, their personality, what their target audience's motivations are, and create specific messaging and platforms to be able to resonate with that target audience and stand apart from the competition. And then design is used to then communicate that strategy. So, at modern8, we always do strategy first, and then we design based on that strategy.
That's awesome. And one thing that you mentioned before we got on stage is that brand is not just a logo. And I think some companies think that's how it is. But like you said, it's not just getting people in the door, it's keeping them there. And that is through brand and design and strategy. Mm-hmm. It all works together.
It all works together. And truly, your logo is not your brand. Your brand exists in the minds of your customers. So it's up to you to control and create that perception within your customers. And we believe that design can truly create those feelings and perceptions and that perceived value. And with that perception, you can really control that customer's behavior and get them to be a long-lasting customer.
Definitely. So you mentioned Apple, so I think I know your answer to this question, but what do you think is the best brand in the world and why? How do they create that?
Yeah, so I would absolutely still stand by that answer, which is Apple. I remember back in 2002 when I first moved to New York, it was right when the first generation of iPods had just I wasn't fortunate enough to own the first generation, but I did get the second.
You remember it.
But I remember it, and I remember sitting on the subway and looking out, and you could spot, maybe every other ride, one person with those white earbuds, and you could kind of wink and nod and know that you were kind of in this little Apple club. It was really a fun we've got
exclusive.
We're in this together, and then from there, of course, Apple has just grown, and I can't think of many people that don't own an iPhone these days, right? And I would say that Nike is another brand. We get customers or clients coming in all the time that are I want a brand that looks like Apple's, clean, simple, recognizable. I want a brand that sounds like Nike, that feels like Nike, and they really just hit on the head. There was a Seth Godin podcast that I heard recently where he talked about, if you were to go to a hotel that was designed by Apple, you would know it. You would know it.
You wouldn't even need the name.
You wouldn't need the name. You would feel it. You would know it. And same thing goes with Nike, right? But if Marriott had designed a shoe or designed a computer, you wouldn't be able to recognize that shoe because Marriott doesn't have a brand. They have a lot of hotels, but not a brand.
Yeah. definitely. It's funny, my husband and I will kind of play this game where we'll try to guess the brand or company from a commercial.
Oh, really?
And Apple is the easiest one to guess because they all, like, you could just tell right when it starts that
you
it's
can
Apple.
feel it. You can like look at it from a mile away and cover up the logo and know exactly like what you're looking at.
For sure, yeah. Well, shift gears a little bit. Like we said, we're sitting 6 feet apart, social distancing, because obviously crazy times right now. But one thing that modern8 did, you guys launched a One Utah Quarantine pitch competition. And can you tell us a little bit more about that, kind of what prompted it and how it's gone and how you guys wanted to impact the community in that way?
Well, I think, as soon as quarantine or pandemic or whatever we're calling it, COVID happened, we realized kind of a couple different things. One is that we probably won't be doing any major rebrands for companies for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And two, as you mentioned, we felt just awful. We felt really grateful and fortunate that we were able to continue doing business. We didn't lose any clients and were able to work remote and weren't really affected by this yet, like knock on wood. But recognize that there are so many individuals out there that were laid off and wanted to provide them an opportunity to get a leg up. So we wanted to kind of give back to the community. So we partnered with you, we partnered with Kiln and some other organizations to launch this contest. And we had many very talented, smart entrepreneurs pitch their ideas to us, and we picked 2. And we're in the middle right now of working through our strategic process, our D5 brand design process, and we're right now in D2. So we just had our workshops with them just yesterday, actually, and last week for the other one. So Droplet and Jerry are the 2 that won, and we're just so excited for them and just love to be a part of. And we also wanted to signal to other startups that we don't just work with big companies, we work with startups as well. So it was a way for us to signal to that we want to be a part of whatever success that we can and give them a leg up in terms of like giving them a strategic foundation and an identity and just the things that they would need to get started without, going into too much debt.
Well, especially in a time where most people aren't wanting to start anything. And so that's awesome.
So it's a little incentive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's been really fun too.
Well, that's great. And to kind of continue in that, you mentioned your team started working remotely. And I know a hot topic right now is leadership during these times. So for you, what's kind of 2 or 3 leadership qualities that you think are most important, especially during these unprecedented times that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah, I think that these certainly are different times, and I was telling Bree just moments ago that our lease actually ended, our 3-year lease ended yesterday, and we decided not to renew it. So, I don't think I would have ever dreamed of going remote, and so being open to change, especially now during these times, I think is very important for a leader, and to be flexible. And, beyond just, logistically being able to run a business remotely, I've also been able to, I guess, think about how I lead in a different way. And, part of this is, I'm sure, like just my history, learning from other people that have managed me, like punching in a time clock, making sure you get your hours in, looking busy, all of those things. And really now I've shifted, and not that I was all of that, but like there's certainly some of that influence, but now shifting kind of my mindset and thinking, it's more about the output that comes out of this rather than the amount of time that was spent on that output. So I'm really able to value the successes and whether that took 2 hours or 8 hours, it doesn't matter. What really matters is the quality that came out of that. And then also being able to recognize, the different ways that in this new environment, people need to be managed and led. I have regular Zoom calls with my people just so I can really still tap into seeing them and being able to read, how they're feeling and that body language. Because if I wasn't seeing
words,
them, if I wasn't seeing them, I wouldn't really truly be able to do that. And so staying on top of problems before they arise through those visual points of communication, I think, is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned before we came on stage that one way, maybe in a bigger company, that you may not be able to Zoom call every single employee, but training your employees to be able to then do that to the people that they supervise, and kind of passing that down through the company and through the culture is super important as well.
Yeah, I do believe, I mean, I'm right now I manage a team of 10. And so it's very easy to have kind of those relationships, but I've also managed in groups of, teams of over 100, and it really starts at the top. And so if you can create that structure of really seeing the person as a whole and having empathy and trust from the top down, and then create those structures and systems to be able to continue that all the way down through direct reports and conversations, then those things can still thrive no matter how large your organization truly is.
Definitely, and it's so important as well. Shifting a little bit to some more fun questions, not COVID related. What's been the best project you've worked on, and why?
Okay, so I have a toddler. She's 4, and when I was pregnant with her, my other child is now 14. So there's like a big gap of babies. So and now with social media and things like that, I found a brand that I just fell in love with. Fell in love with the aesthetics, and before I had her, I literally registered for everything possible of that brand. And when we were approached by this brand, Little Unicorn, back in the spring of last year, I went nuts. I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't realize this brand was local. And so we got to rebrand them from, through our process, we got to work on their brand, their strategic part of their brand, and then we got to redesign their packaging and refresh their logo, and we put together this beautiful brand book that deployed the assets of everything that we had created. And it was truly, they're just a dream to work with, not only because we share similar points of view, but they're all just wonderful, wonderful people. And one of my favorite moments was we gave them our strategy presentation, a group of them, and it was emotional. It was really emotional because we worked on their brand story and their brand narrative, which is very emotionally driven, and I made the owner cry, and he had to walk out and take a moment and come back. And anyway, it was just such a fun project.
But that all ties to what you've been saying with brand and strategy. You want to connect to your customers, and one huge way to connect is emotionally.
Yeah.
And so that shows that a brand can be that impactful to people.
Yeah, in fact, it really needs to be. It needs to touch on, we call it the head and the heart. So the head is the positioning, it's what you do that no one else does. And then the brand is really that heart. It's the personality, it's the story that you're telling, it's your voice. And those things together really truly create a strategic platform that can resonate. And then, like I said, we use design to communicate those strategies. And so they all kind of work together.
Yeah, that's awesome. So another question is, what would be your dream client to work with? And it doesn't have to be a specific company, but maybe, for you with modern8, what does a company look like if they come in and you would really want to work with them as a dream client?
Well, I think a dream client really could be summed up as someone that has a business or product or service that is has a lot of promise, but doesn't understand how to communicate that value and that potential, and wants to work with us and really dig in to understand and to create those touch points for them. And as a woman, I would love to work with other women-led businesses. We've been targeting more women's businesses as of late because it's something I'm passionate about, and I want to get in there and work with other women. But really, it's just someone that needs help realizing their potential and wants to do the process with it. And of course, someone that really values and understands great design too.
Of course, yeah, that's awesome, for sure. So to kind of wrap things up, what is the future of modern8? Kind of what are you guys planning? Anything that you can tell us? And what do you see? I know you mentioned your lease is up, and it is kind of an unpredictable future, but for you guys, what do you have in store?
Well, I think that we are going to continue just doing what we do best. We're not a marketing company that happens to do branding. We are a brand design agency. So we're going to stick to what we know, and hopefully, as brands kind of come about or start to, new brand startups, they'll come to us and we can work together to grow brands. And then as things kind of start to stabilize, we'll have more rebrands. We've also started developing our own products and branding those, and so we hope to be able to do more of those in the future. We just launched it's soon a coffee company, and we'll be doing
awesome.
we'll be doing other products as well. And then for the future of where we're going to live and breathe, I think for now, for the foreseeable future, we'll be working remote. And I think one other great thing about that is that allows us to tap into, other talent, the talent that's out there in a way that we maybe wouldn't have been able to do before. So that's really exciting to me. And I think we'll just kind of keep our ears out and our eyes out for a new space to move into once things kind of settle, and maybe a space that'll better suit our needs, a photography studio, maybe a coffee shop, and certainly like more of a communal-based gathering for us to meet with clients and have meetings and have more events and things like that.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was great having you here, and I appreciate you taking the time. And
Yeah,
good
this
luck
was fun.
with all your future endeavors. Yeah, thank you so much.